She is the brave and beautiful new face of a child born in the wrong body.
What it's like to live in America in a bigger black body.
How I exist in this body, feel in this body.
You know, living in a larger body, that I was like this person in a larger body.
My ability to live in the world in a bigger body.
Mummy, I'm a boy in a girl's body.
I was born in the wrong body. What if I told you that this belief is rooted in one of the oldest and most pervasive errors of Western philosophy? Mind-body dualism, the idea that the mind and body are two distinct entities. The body, physical, objective, flesh and bone. The mind, mental, subjective, our consciousness or soul, beyond mere matter and energy. This idea is ancient. Plato, obsessed with the true nature of things, asked his countrymen, "What is justice?" The Athenians knew the word, they were able to use it in a sentence, but they were unable to define it. Plato knew that justice couldn't just be a list of examples. There had to be a pure, unchanging idea. Thus, Plato postulates the existence of an abstract, pure form of justice. For Plato, all things have a true form, which is non-physical and eternal. Knowledge of the forms would explain the true nature of things, including the human soul. A lucid idea, but one that splits the world into two and puts Western philosophy on an erroneous trajectory. Scholasticism is essentially a fancy term for medieval Christian philosophy. Many people are unaware of the influence Plato had on Christian philosophy. The scholastics adopted Plato's dualism to explain the human mind. We are an eternal soul bestowed by God, encased in a temporary meat suit. When we die, the souls of the righteous ascend to heaven, a place of light, a place of green pasture, etc., a better place in summary. The upshot of this is a hierarchical value judgment about the soul and the body. The soul is more pure and more true than the imperfect and temporary body. For physical training is of some value, but godliness has value for all things, holding more promise for both the present life and the life to come. 1 Timothy chapter 4, verse 8. Then came Descartes, Descartes the rigorous, Descartes the humble. Descartes begins his philosophical inquiry from a position of radical skepticism. He doubted everything it was possible to doubt. He supposed a malicious and powerful demon had done all it could to deceive him. He realized it was possible to doubt what he sees, hears, smells, touches, or tastes, but he couldn't doubt the existence of his mind, because his mind had to exist in order to doubt itself. Cogito ergo sum. I think, therefore I am. Descartes proved without doubt that his mind existed, but his first principle could not prove the existence of his body. The ontological status of the mind and the body now rested on uneven ground, and thus the trajectory of Western philosophy erred further. Today we bear the fruits of our mind-body split, and the elevation of the soul above the body. Body positivity is the idea that we should hold ourselves in high esteem regardless of how our body looks or functions. That acceptance is the even more explicit claim that we are beautiful independent of how we look and that we are healthy at any size. Gender-affirming cares begins with the assumption that some people are born in the wrong body and would be better off if only they had a different body. These ideas are direct descendants of Plato and Christianity, which is why the prevalence of these ideas is highest in Western historically Christian cultures. The concealed premise in these claims is that we are not our body, that our body is a meat suit to be neglected or reskinned or transcended and doesn't determine who or what we are. The implications are sinister. A functioning body is indistinguishable from being alive. To identify with a non-physical soul and deny the primacy of the body is to deny life itself. The separation of the mind from the body is therefore self-denying and life-negating. The mind is a function of the body. Our thoughts, feelings, and consciousness arise from the complex interactions of neurons and the brain's physical structures. The mind supervenes on the body. They are one in the final analysis. The evidence to support physicalism is both empirical and theoretical. The empirical evidence rests on advancements in neuroscience and cognitive science that increasingly show mental processes are strongly correlated with brain activity. Theoretical evidence rests on Occam's razor and the causal closure of the physical principle. Occam's razor recommends that we should prefer the simpler theory that makes the fewest assumptions while still sufficiently explaining the phenomena. Physicalism is simpler than mind-body dualism because it doesn't require commitment to an ambiguous, non-physical substance to explain the mind. The causal closure of the physical principle states that every physical event needs only a physical cause. All energy is conserved, and there is no necessity for a non-physical cause. The natural world, therefore, is monistic or singular, and not dualistic. Vedanta philosophy long recognized that the Atman or soul and Brahman or ultimate reality are one and the same. Yoga means union in Sanskrit. Yoga practice, therefore, is the union of Purusha or consciousness with Prakriti or nature. This is self-realization and identification with ultimate reality. Buddhism teaches that there is no independent self. Things lack their own intrinsic nature and are interconnected and temporary. In Taoism, the fundamental source and substance of all things is the Tao. We are one with the Tao, and to live in harmony with the Tao is to live according to Dei, or virtue. Hindu, Buddhist, and Taoist philosophy are all monistic instead of dualistic. They regard the mind and body as one, because they regard all as one. This philosophical trajectory points towards virtue and eudaimonia, human flourishing. Plato wasn't the only game in town in ancient Greece. Pre-Socratic philosophers such as Thales of Miletus and Anaximander and Heraclitus all proposed monistic, singular explanations for reality, a single unifying substance to explain all of nature, including the human mind. Truth was not to be found in abstraction to transcendental realms, but in observation of the natural world around them. This empirical approach finds its mark with Aristotle, the philosopher, the scientist, the biologist. Aristotle agreed with Plato that things had a true nature, but rather than positing a transcendental realm of unchanging forms, Aristotle inferred the nature of things from observing how they tend to be unto themselves. He studied the migratory patterns of birds and the breeding seasons of fish, noting that these behaviors were intrinsic to the organism and good for them. And thus, Aristotle conceived of goodness in living in accordance with one's nature. To live in accordance with one's nature and to do so with excellence is called virtue. A life of virtue is indistinguishable from human flourishing or eudaimonia. We have a nature. We are physical beings with immutable facts about our physiology and psychology. To live well, we must live according to our physical nature and excel at doing so to cultivate health and virtue. Affirm your body by eating what you're supposed to eat and moving how you're supposed to move. These are not social constructs or arbitrary fads. You are your body, and your body is you. My friends, thank you so much for watching. This has been my response to the unsettling trend of dissociating the mind from the body I've been seeing in popular culture lately. I've tried to show why this rests on the erroneous belief that we are our minds and not our bodies. I propose we embrace our bodies and live in accordance with nature. Do you agree with me? Let me know in the comments and subscribe if you haven't already.